If you told me 3.5 years ago, before ChatGPT came out, that I would be in a world where I could talk to an AI, I could send it photos, it could classify almost anything I gave to it, that it would be driving people crazy through AI-induced psychosis, that it would be causing such a huge upheaval in society, I would have thought you were crazy. Because this is a true black swan event, both for society and in education. I would have thought that you'd been reading too much Ray Kurzweil. It turned out to be right, which is a very strange feeling. So my goal is to get you a little more excited about being innovative with AI and embracing it. And also get you a bit more, let's say, motivated to do it quickly. Because when we think about the way AI is changing education, we need to think about who is going to guide AI to make education better. And it seems to me that educators would be the best people to do that. AI happens to be very good at making things that look like education, that look like assessments. You can make a test with AI that looks very much like a test. A student can take it. It actually gives you almost no signal as to whether or not the student knows anything in the class. So when we think about the future of education, we need to think about embracing it, trying things, not being afraid to fail, and listening to students, because they're staying up on this. The problem is there is a time horizon on all of this. If people remember evolution, it's not that it forces an organism to adapt, it's that it culls the ones that don't adapt. In fact, it culls the ones that don't already have the adaptation. So we are up against a time horizon here where the culling, for lack of a better word, has begun in many industries, and education is one of them. So we need to make sure that we have those adaptations in our classrooms, with our students, and in our universities. This talk is already outdated. So much happened in the last week since I tried to send it along and preview it for Wheelock. I can almost not even understand the rate at which this is going. We now have video generation that takes 100 milliseconds to the first frame. What that means is you can type in a prompt, and 100 milliseconds later, you're watching a real-time video with what you said. You can dynamically adjust it. We have supply chain injection attacks, which means that people have figured out how to make automated AIs that load in packages via, let's say, OpenClaw, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and take over a computer and spread itself. We have the Carpathy loop, which is AI has started improving itself, and because of an AI's work on AI, we can actually achieve ChatGPT 2 10% faster. We have TurboQuant, which is a 10-time reduction in the size of an LLM, of an AI. So you go from running this on the cloud to a computer under your desk. And it's been like 6 days. This is exhausting, right? But it just shows how fast this is going. So to give some perspective here, a lot of people have probably seen this graph. This is how fast a various service hit 100 million users. It was 2 months for ChatGPT. Nowadays, we're at 900 million users a week. So we're talking a very significant chunk of the globe is using ChatGPT, is using generative AI. Now look at this thing over here. This is something that some of you may not even have heard of. So these are stars on GitHub. Now GitHub's where developers put code. You star something if you like it. And you've got these very fast growing lines here. So starting in 2012, you've got Linux. Everybody likes Linux. We like seeing it open source. You've got Facebook React, which is sort of a design language on the web. It got very popular. It took, 14 years to get over 200,000 stars. And then you have this little lobster, and you're going to hear a lot about lobsters and a lot about raising a lobster. This is OpenClaw, which is an agentic AI framework. You can think of it as just ChatGPT, but it can do anything on your computer. And if that sounds like a security nightmare, that's because it is. However, it's unbelievably powerful. It's like the ChatGPT moment. That took 2 months. Oh, the other thing that happened in AI, it got good at writing at some point. So go ahead and look at this New York Times quiz. You're just going to choose which one of these passages you like best. One on the left, one on the right. Oh, should we just do this live? Can I get a show of hands for passage 1? Who likes that better? Are you still reading? I'm sorry. Okay. For those of you who have finished reading, one on your left here. Hands up.
Human or AI?
No, you're just choosing which one do you like best. Okay, we got a few for the left. Okay, what about the right? It's so much better, isn't it? And this is Carl Sagan, you guys. Yeah, and you know what? I chose this one only because I recognized his writing. I knew it didn't flow as smoothly as the AI one. I was just like raging against the machine. So yeah, remember when we thought that just AI was like terrible at writing? It's gotten good. Remember when AI couldn't write text on a screen? That's AI. So this is moving so fast that we need to stay on it. And it is very, very hard to do. So first off, let me put your mind at ease. I think the elite schools will be okay. When we look forward into education, content creation, teaching, the cost is going towards zero, right? You can just get on an LLM and you can start talking to it. And you can learn almost anything. Now, what's nice about elite schools is society loves the elite. They love having a place to send the elite. We also need a place where smart people can come together and push the edge of knowledge further. Now, I am worried about the other 4,000 universities. Even the elite schools will need to adapt and adapt quickly. You know, as we look at the way information is being transferred between teachers and students, we're seeing in K-12 full flip schooling. Right? So the students are essentially learning on their own at home, and they're discussing it in class. That's massively beneficial. But there's going to need to be some innovation here. So random actor, James and Clay brought up this really important point, which is AI is a tool. Right? Like any tool, it can be constructive or destructive. It's like writing, a calculator, the wheel, a nuclear weapon. And you know what's funny about writing is Plato actually had Socrates criticize writing in Phaedrus. He said, "For this invention will produce forgetfulness in the minds of those who learn to use it, because they will not practice their memory." Right? Like, people shouldn't learn to write. Come on, we want to be educated here. Don't teach literacy. But I mean, was he wrong? I can't remember a lot of phone numbers. I can't remember that passage I just read. I don't have a memory palace that's well developed. It has fundamentally changed us as a species. Now, quality of life-wise, I think writing did pretty well for us. So I would check a win in that. But if AI freaks you out, you're in good company, right? Any of these revolutionary tools will be frightening. But I recommend that you freak out accurately. Socrates was really good at this. He said, okay, it'll make you forgetful. Also, writing has no theory of mind. Well, he said knowledge of soul, but we would call it theory of mind. He said writing can't defend itself, right? Writing will give you the appearance of knowledge just because you have access to it, but will not actually give you wisdom. So he was very accurate. I think he spent his fears in the right place. Now, what I find fascinating about that is that those criticisms of writing seem to be solved by AI. It does have theory of mind. It can defend itself. It has a lot of very fascinating things. So when you're trying to, so every time something comes out, right? I was a musician for a long time. Suno came out. You just go through this grieving process of like, oh, great, AI can do something I spent 20 years learning again, you know? You go through that grieving process. You got to come out the other side. Part of it is don't get caught in this anxiety loop of I'm just freaked out by it. Be specific, because then you could start using it as a tool. So whether we like it or not, we are the generation that figures this out. So all of us on the planet right now, I'm very thankful to be with all of you. We get to figure out how does our species interact with AI? How do we teach our young about AI? How do we teach ourselves? What do we learn? This is not the first time our species has encountered something like this before. In fact, back in the 50s, nukes were looked at as a tool as well for construction or destruction. So they said, you know what, let's make some reservoirs. Operation Project Plowshare. Let's blow some stuff up with nukes. That would be a great way to move a lot of Earth. Not a bad idea, actually. Well, actually, it was a bad idea for Ohio and Iowa, which is where all of the radioactive fallout landed. But that generation figured out, okay, we're not going to use it for construction. We also have figured out a way not to blow ourselves up. That's great. I am so thankful to the people of the 50s that figured this out. It's been an uneasy time since, but it worked. That's us right now. We get to figure this out. I think this is the most powerful educational tool since the printing press. I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think some people would disagree. And the unfortunate thing that I've found every time I try to disagree with the progress of AI is AI doesn't seem to care if I disagree. It just keeps going. So when you think about the process of learning, think about going into a blacksmith's forge, right? So you walk in, there's a power hammer, there's like a forge that's burning hot, there's some metal on the wall, and your task is to make a chef's knife. That's pretty intimidating. But now imagine you go into the same forge, and there's a blacksmith there, a master practitioner. And you say, okay, I want to make a chef's knife, and they say, no problem. And they help walk you through it. That's every subject right now. Except at the edges of knowledge, that's every subject with AI. Now granted, this master practitioner is a little distracted and fallible, so think like a slightly drunk blacksmith. But something that would have been an intimidating, difficult process. How do you quench a chef's knife? At what temperature? There's so many questions that you would have if you were on your own. You're no longer on your own. It suddenly becomes a fun weekend workshop. I researched quantum programming the other day. It's something that, very embarrassingly, I didn't know much about. I tried to learn it about 10 years ago. I found it difficult. So I sat down with AI, I watched a video, and I was able to program a quantum algorithm. And it's because of that dialogue that you can have with it. Suddenly, I was now in the blacksmith's forge, which was actually the IBM Q computer, and I had somebody to guide me. Okay, so what does this all mean? So we've got this powerful tool. It's somewhat frightening. It's extremely powerful. It could be the most equitable moment in education we have ever seen because every student gets access to this sort of thing. Well, the way I think about it is there's two questions in education. First is, what do we teach? Or sorry, what do we learn? What do we teach also in here? And the difficulty with this question, when you're trying to sit down and put together a calculus curriculum, is it begs the question, why are we learning this, right? Do you need Newton's method in there? Is this student going to become an engineer, or are you just making them sad for no reason? Why are we here? Are we here to get a good job, status? Are we here to further science, further art, innovation? That all begs the fundamental question. You sit down to write a calculus curriculum, and you start to have to think, what is the meaning of life? Which is a very difficult day in creating a syllabus. Now, the second question is, how do we learn it? Right? This was pretty straightforward for a while. We have people that communicate it. Some people can learn from books. We have books, then we had MOOCs. We have online courses. But this is all converging. Because if the way you learn something is so fast, or your access to knowledge fundamentally changes, then you end up changing what you learn as well. And for the first time, we're really converging in a moment. Right? At any time, you can talk to that AI and have it there, giving you that knowledge both of process and also facts. Again, slightly drunkenly, it's not perfect yet. So what do we do about it? Well, the Reserve Bank of Dallas posted this graph that the Financial Times picked up, which is very helpful. So we've got the three options for AI here. So we got our GDP that's coming up. We hit the tech singularity. And end of scarcity. That would be amazing, right? Everybody gets food and water and healthcare. Then it really doesn't matter what or how we teach, right? Because we're living in this utopia. So good. Now we don't have to worry about those questions. Second option, tech singularity, human extinction. Plus side, we don't have to worry about what or how we teach. Realistic path is that we do have AI-boosted growth in our GDP. So we have to figure out, how do we teach? How do we learn? What do you store inside the machine versus in your head? Now, we already do a ton of this already. Hybrid mind reliance. So writing, right? We keep a lot of things in books. We don't hold that in our heads. Calculators. Does anyone here know how to take the square root of an imperfect square by hand? Yeah, me neither. I have no idea. That used to be taught, right? Because we didn't have calculators that could do it. We've got Wikipedia, we have tape recorders. If you own an electric car, frequently your brake pedal is a hybrid mind as well. It's basically a PlayStation controller. You push on your brake pedal. It's not connected to anything. It's like, cool, you want to stop, and here's how fast you want to stop. And then it works with a mind to slow your car. When I was growing up, your brake pedal was just connected to your brakes. It was basically insane, because if you stomped on the brakes, all the wheels would lock up and the car would go skidding. So this is a very good hybrid mind to be relying upon. And also, within your own mind, you actually have lower neural subsystems that you don't have cognitive access to. So we have a long, rich history of relying on information and processes outside our own minds. So how do we decide which information is in our mind versus outside our mind? This is something where I'm actually going to try to be practical for a second, which is hard to do at this point because with AI, you're sort of inevitably wrong instantly anything you say. I remember telling people, at some point, ChatGPT is going to be multimodal. Within the year, you'll be able to submit an image to it, and it'll recognize that image. And people are like, that's crazy science fiction. It happened the next week. I was like behind the curve on that one. OK, so I don't know if Azar Bastavros is here, but he is my former computer science professor and taught me computer science caching theory. So when you think about what to hold in your mind versus outside, you can think of your mind as being the memory very close to the processor, and the other memory being in the cloud or in the RAM or on a hard disk. So now you just have to choose what stays inside and what goes outside. So the first is choose based on frequency. Do you use it a lot? Multiplication tables. If you have to ask AI every time you do a multiplication table, you're in a bad situation, right? So because you hit that a lot. So you keep that inside your mind. Urgency. How fast do you need it? Do you take time to ask your AI? A lot of physical stuff, a lot of social stuff is very urgent. Imagine falling down the stairs, right? You slip, and then you're like, hey, AI, what do I do if I fall down the stairs? And then it's too late. So you need to hold that information on board. We can think about that also in a regular curriculum. The third part is outside computer caching theory, which is simulation. This is my own kind of pedagogical layer on top of this, which is you need to be able to simulate the world inside your mind. By that I mean you need a simulation of physics. You need to understand that you throw something up, it comes back down most of the time. You need to understand economics, social dynamics, business. Anything where you can simulate the world, that model should be on board. And finally is existence. Sometimes it's good just to know that something exists. We used to call this trailheads in computer science. There's a shortest path algorithm called Dijkstra's shortest path algorithm. I actually don't know it right now, but I know that it exists, so I can go outside my mind and get it. And fortunately, I don't need that sort of thing frequently or urgently at the moment. So then when you go through and you look at all of the knowledge, what do you want to learn? You can recategorize it. So you can learn something as is, times tables. You should learn that. Reading with phonemes. The second is augmented. So that's where you're using a calculator. Imagine this is the sort of square root question. So you can then downgrade some of your learning into an augmented level. There are certain languages that I would love to learn. Using Google Translate's good enough for certain situations for me. I kind of hate that, but it is something that frees up my time to learn all of the new things we have to learn. The third is an optional curiosity. So think about orienteering with a compass and a map. That is really cool. If you get a chance to do that, it's lots of fun. It is not necessary unless you're in a very bad GPS-free situation. And then the final part is awareness, which is where you file everything under existence. Okay. The reason why I'm trying to delineate this is because AI is good at many of the things that a great teacher is good at. And that's something that we should embrace. This is an extraordinary tool. This is what you wish every student could have. And when you look through it, you say, okay, well, what does that mean for us, for teachers? Well, in a world where you can be taught information in this way, it will still be one of the most valuable things to spend one-on-one time with a human. A teacher once told me that the most amazing thing a teacher can do is believe a student can do something that that student themselves doesn't believe they can do. That's what pushes somebody to that next level. If we use AI correctly, we will be able to give more of that time to students because that information transfer will be much more straightforward. Now, as we think about the future of education and the costs beginning to approach zero, and by the way, I am talking about sort of the first 98% of human knowledge. That last 2% is locked up in people's minds, and it's something that you do still need to encounter on your own. But AI is good at that first 98%. One thing we're going to need to think about as educators is assessment. What does it mean to know something? How do you assess students and know they're not using AI? Or for many teachers, know that they are using AI in the best way that they can use the tool. And I think that this is an important active area of research. I have a friend at Harvard that's pretty much gone entirely over to oral exams and blue books. That's one way to do it. But another way is, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could just let students learn on their own and help them understand what they would be assessed on, help them understand how they would be viewed in the workforce or in higher education based on their skills themselves, not a time unit of learning. Okay, it can all feel a little bleak, but I am very optimistic about the future. And part of the reason is that AI, generative LLMs, even image generators, runs on really bad hardware. So you can text ChatGPT from a feature phone well, I know in Kenya there's still a ton of feature phones in the communities I've been in. So you can text it. You can have access to the most advanced model in civilization through a feature phone. You can access it through WeChat, through WhatsApp. You can use any of the hardware you have, and you can get the education that you want. That is the dream of education, right? Is that universal access, no matter who you are or where you are. Because I'm a firm believer that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. So in closing, I just want to urge everyone to step out of the nest over the AI edge in your practices, embrace AI, use it yourself, use it with your students, and ask them how best they can learn for this future. Thank you.